to Title Talk with Title Leap. I am Jim Brown. I am a Florida real estate attorney, founder of Title Leap, and work at James Brown Law.
I am David Velez, Chief Development Officer of Title Leap and closer extraordinaire for James Brown Law and other entities.
You like to work that closing extraordinaire angle, don't you?
Truth hurts, my friend.
All right, so today we're going to talk about the COVID Addendum issued by the Florida Association of Realtors March 20th. And you're going to know you're dealing with the right form because in the lower left-hand corner of the form, you're going to see the date and the title COVID-1. And without further ado, I'm going to switch to that form so that we can look at it on screen. All right, so here's the form, and what it does in effect is it gives realtors the opportunity to extend time frames in the contract for specific events that you think may be affected by COVID. So if you have an existing contract and there's an issue with a financing period or a closing date, let's say, you can enter additional days up to 30 or 30 if left blank, or you can put in a date that you want that specific event to end on. And there is closing dates, financing periods, title cure periods, feasibility studies. This form is designed for several different contracts. So you can see at the very top, the vacant land contract, commercial contract, they call it the CRISP. But what we're predominantly working with in Palm Beach County is the FAR 2017 as is and non as is. So we're going to primarily look at these first three boxes, and these last four boxes, except for the homeowners association, we're not going to be concerned with. Any questions?
So is this really meant for contracts going forward, or is this like a supplemental to the current contracts?
I like that question because I like this form to be issued when you're drafting new contracts and you want to protect buyers. Okay. So if you draft a FAR as is today and you want to protect your buyer, I would use this form right off the bat and include it in the contract package, and I would make note in paragraph 20 that you have included the COVID-19 addendum.
Okay. And so then how about like existing contracts? Would this be more like a negotiating jump off, or?
Definitely if you're going to be bumping up against something like the inspection period and you need additional time, yes, you can tell your seller, if you represented a buyer, hey, we're going to send over the COVID extension because we can't get our inspector in there, and you could say, we're going to cancel if you don't sign it. And if you do sign it, the contract will continue. I have a feeling you're going to see sellers that are going to sign, but it is definitely an additionally negotiated issue. Okay. The reason I like signing this at the contract onset is because of this language at the very bottom, which protects buyers in the sense that if the lender pulls out and the buyer has already been approved, then the contract is reduced to neutral, parties discharged, and the buyer gets their money back, their deposit.
Okay.
Back.
So in other words, like all those periods could have gone past and the lender all of a sudden gets cold feet for whatever reason, and this protects the buyer.
Yep.
Okay.
So it gives you the ability to cancel the contract by providing written notice to seller the earlier of the closing date or within 2 days of the expiration of the notice of the refusal. So if you got refused on Monday, you'd have a couple of days to send notice. And certainly if it was the closing date was so close and they pulled out at the very last minute, you could actually even pull out on the day of the closing date and get your money back. But again, it's related specifically to buyers that can't close because lenders pulled out.
Right. So now is this like essentially like a supplement to the whole force majeure issues on the contracts, or like?
So the force majeure provision in the contract specifically addresses extending timeframes 7 days for events of force majeure. So 7-day inspection period extension, 7-day financing period extensions, up to 30 days. including closing dates, whatever significant date you're talking about, it'll be extended up to 7 days at the end of the force majeure event. And if the force majeure event goes on for more than 30 days, then neither party can cancel.
So is this like replacing or like, I guess I'm still misunderstanding like whether this is like replaces all that or just defines this as its own specific little event, if you will.
I think it narrows it. So you've got the general force majeure clause in the contract, and then this extension addendum gives realtors tools to specifically navigate those events and pin dates down.
Okay.
So
all right.
if you say that again?
I was just agreeing with what you said. I said, okay, all right, that makes sense.
Yeah. And so if there's a state order in place and no one can get around and no one's allowed to leave their house, like we had just talked about in the prior title
right.
talk, the state order and the Palm Beach County order and how that affects real estate agents. But let's just suppose there was this tremendous lockdown and no one was allowed to leave their house. Then we would all agree that the force majeure provision in the contract controls.
Right.
But this addendum gives realtors an additional tool to fine tune issues that arise, let's just say before some catastrophic event like that occurs.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
A lot there, as usual. Like all this
yes.
stuff we're talking about is very confusing, and it's a lot to navigate as a real estate agent. Again, I want to mention the date is April 3rd, 2020. And the things we're talking about are specific with regard to this time frame, this space and time that we're navigating the COVID issues that realtors have to tackle. Thanks for watching this episode of Title Talk. Stay tuned where we'll have more information coming to realtors in the coming weeks with regard to COVID.
And that is all we have for this edition. Thanks for joining us.
Take care.
Bye.
Hi, I'm Ashley. I'm the producer of Title Talk. The discussion you just listened to is not legal opinion and should not be taken as legal advice. Title Talk is an educational show that we designed to teach realtors how to spot the issues and what the framework of outcomes and resolutions might be. Whenever we refer to a contract, we are always referring to the current FAR bar as-is and non-as-is contract forms. The best advice you can always give your client is you need to talk to an attorney, and when you give that advice, it's always best to do it in writing. If you have any questions that you'd like to see answered on our next episode, please call us or text us at 561-838-9595. And as always, make sure you hit subscribe and hit the bell icon so that way you can get a notification every single time we post a new video. And be sure to connect with us on social media because we are on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. As the corona situation develops, we know how important it is to stay up to date, so make sure you follow us on social media so you can see every new update as it comes. Alright guys, thanks so much. Thanks for watching another episode. We'll see you next week, and stay safe. Bye.